welcome to another set of video notes. This lesson is entitled, what we're going to do is we're going to graph quadratic equations in vertex or intercept form. The other day we did standard form with ax plus by equals c, or actually then we had moved the c so it was equal to 0. We had a whole bunch of steps. Today we're going to look at what if I give it to you in vertex form. So this first lesson, this first set of notes is just over that one particular concept. So I gave you vertex form. I reminded you that A is the number out in front. You've got an H and you've got a K. It looks a lot different from the standard form, but if you remember way back when we did absolute value, we also had this HK idea. So it's not a brand new idea. Let's kind of go through the important parts. Remember, if your A is greater than 0, our parabola is still going to open up. If our A is less than 0, it's going to open down. Okay? We're going to find our axis of symmetry, which is H. Notice what sign's here? A negative, and here we have a positive. So you need to take the opposite of what's in the parentheses. Okay? And we'll practice that. And then your vertex is just HK. Once again, opposite of what's there. And then K. So that should be pretty easy. Let's come over here and let's start looking at the steps. First step, like normal, we're going to decide up or down. We can also talk about skinnier or fatter. We're going to find the axis of symmetry and put a dotted line there. We're going to graph our vertex. Now this time we don't look for the y-intercept. Remember that 0C thing we talked about? This time you're going to just pick a number for y. You're going to plug it in, or for x, you're going to plug it in to get y, and then you graph the point and get the reflection. Now I will tell you, when you pick your number for x, what I would say is pick a number close to the dotted line. Otherwise, sometimes you can have some really big graphs, okay, because it gets close, it gets big quickly. So let's go ahead, let's go look at our first one. So we're going to come over here. First example, we've got y equals 1/4, and then in parentheses, x plus 2 squared plus 5. Now, the first thing we have to decide is, does this open up or down? Well, let's see. What's our A? Our A is 1/4. Is that greater than 0 or less than 0? Oh, it's greater than 0, so it's going to open up. Okay? The next step I told you to do was find the axis of symmetry. So I'm going to label it axis of symmetry. And this is when you can think to yourself, okay, it's the number inside the parentheses. Do we take 2? No, you're right. We need to take -2 because it's the opposite of what's there. Okay, now, in terms of our graph, and I think I'm just going to sneak it over here, okay, we need to go over to -2 and draw our dotted line. Okay? And then this part's pretty easy. We find our vertex. Remember, our vertex is whatever we said the axis of symmetry was, and then the other number. So we've got -2, 5. Okay? So we go over to -2, 5. So there's -2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you go up. Okay? Now, we know it's going to go up, so we can kind of estimate, but we need to know exactly. So we're going to pick a number that is close to our dotted line. And in this case, I'm just going to pick x equals 0. Okay? So now we plug it in, and we get 1/4. 0 plus 2. We're going to square that. We're going to add 5. So let's see. What do we do first? This is order of operations. So we need to do what's inside the parentheses first. So 0 plus 2 is 2. Then what do we do next? Oh yes, exponents. So 2 squared is 4. Now we've got multiplication and addition. What are we going to do next? Multiplication. So we get 1 plus 5, which equals 6. So when I say x is 0, y should be 6. So now let's graph that point. Stay at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we can do that cool reflection trick. So this is 1, 2 away, So take that same place and go further another 2 units. And we got it. And it does look probably a little fatter than normal. So we did it, okay? And that's all there is to it. Let's do one more example just to get comfortable with this. So let's come over here and look at this example. We have y equals negative, and then in parentheses x minus 1, and that's squared, and then we've got plus 5. Okay, so first thing we need to decide is this, up or down? Well, let's see. This time our a is negative 1. That's less than 0. So, oh, you said it. You're great. It is going to open down. Okay, next thing I want you to find is your axis of symmetry. Remember, that's the number that's inside the parentheses, but you have to take the opposite. So instead of negative 1 that's there, we say it's at 1. Okay, and we'll go ahead and graph that before we get much further. So we go over to x equals 1, and that's where we put the dotted line. And I'm just going to add some more units, just for grins for you. Okay, all right, so now what's our vertex going to be? It's the same number as the axis, which is the opposite of what's there, so it's 1. And then you just get to drag this number along. Now, I guess I messed up because both of our examples have been positive here. If you saw a minus number, you include that because it's h and k. All right, so maybe on your hints where you talked about take the opposite, k is just whatever's there. Okay, so now we're going to graph our vertex, 1, 5. So over to 1 and up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we make our dot. And now we need to pick a point that's close. And if you want, pick 0. That's fine. Especially on ones that are close to it. So I plug in and I've got the negative of 0 minus 1 squared plus 5. Well, what is, gotta do parentheses first, what is 0 minus 1? It's negative 1. If you square negative 1, remember that's negative 1 times negative 1. Oh yeah, that's a positive 1. So I've got this now, because of the negative up front. Negative 1 plus 5 is 4. So my new point is 0, 4. So let's go ahead and graph that. And you put in 0 and go up to 4. Now, let's reflect that point. It is 1 unit away from the dotted line. So go 1 unit in the opposite direction. And we get that. And I do believe that's probably the normal width. And that's because it's a 1 in front, okay? All right, and that's it. We'll practice this later. Bye.